Welcome back to the third session of Global Inspiration Day. Thank you to Michaela Kleinsmith for her great performance during the break. In Wetopia, we all acknowledge that we can only make a city together. In Wetopia, we actively stimulate more cooperation and develop and research and demonstrate new alliances between citizens, politicians, civil servants, city makers, entrepreneurs, artists, activists, scientists, and so I can continue, because all change makers are policy makers. Wetopia Making Cities Together is a global living lab of communities of practice in which we work locally in the field to connect people and projects to explore more holistic solutions and possibilities to learn, to understand, to work on new norms of democracy by co-creating and working together, and doing so expanding the way of Wetopia and the way we work globally. In this session, the driving force of Wetopia, Quintens, will introduce the Wetopia work and invites Wetopians, Kilani, and myself, Ellen Fischat, to share their takeaways from the local Wetopia Learning Program for policymakers. We did this program in collaboration with Open Design Afrika in Cape Town. Then Yoko will invite two great change-making Wetopian examples to the session, who are working with the most deprived communities in Brazil and in Kenya. Pimpma Karoka and Kataki in São Paulo, Brazil, is presented by Mundano, an activist and artist, and Living Lab Nairobi in Nairobi, Kenya, by Amolo Amobole, a scientist. Kevin Kimwele, Wetopia partner and community architect based in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, will make the closing remarks. It's really wonderful to welcome our moderator today, Quintens. She is based in Marseille, France, and she's the founder of Wetopia, Making Cities Together. From different roles, Quintens has built a strong reputation in making a city together, in which everyone, citizens, activists, entrepreneurs, artists, scientists, politicians, civil servants, all of us play a huge role. She calls this Wetopia. As a designer and process facilitator, Yoke is an active community developer. As the former deputy mayor of the city of Genk in Belgium, she worked on real transitions at city level in the areas of participation, neighborhood development, sustainable development, environment, and equality. For more than 20 years, creativity and working together to move forward have been the forefront of her career, both in the social sector, in policy, and in her activities as an entrepreneur. Since 2017, Quintens lives and works in Marseille, France, a city with 2,600 years of experience in migration, diversity, and resilience. In Living Lab Moving, Marseille, she uses the city as a laboratory to learn, but also to connect people and projects inside and outside Marseille. Since 2019, Yoka accelerated her Wetopia activities with the Wetopia Academy in Cape Town, South Africa. Le Tour de tous les possibles for Manifesta 13 is also in France and another project of Yoka's, and she also works preparing Wetopia work in Pristina, Kosovo, and in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm very, very pleased and honored to hand over to you, Yoka Quintens, who will be introducing us to our speakers. Thank you, Yoka, and welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ellen, and hello, Sia. Nice seeing you. I'm going to share my screen so I can immediately go into the presentation, if it's okay. Do you see, maybe I have to do this. I'm sorry for the technical, I think this will work, okay?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, Ellen, and thank you also Open Design Afrika. I'm very excited to share the Wetopia story with you. And I love to exchange how we all together can build Wetopia. But maybe first, who are we? And I have to check there. I'm going to try again to share this. Yes. Who are we? We are a starting global community of practice. And as you will notice, all kinds of roles are represented in Wetopia. We will speak to Sia, who I see Sia as a city maker in Cape Town, with Ellen, not only as an MC like today, but as an entrepreneur, Mundano as an activist and artist, and Amolo as a scientist. Like Ellen said, I'm Joke. I'm based in Marseille. I'm a designer and facilitator of co-creation projects, but I'm also a former politician, and that's also a little bit what I want to elaborate on. I'm also a field expert in participatory policies, and my colleague Kevin, who will do the closing remarks, he is a community architect. So a politician and an architect collaborating in Wetopia. And that's what I want to talk about, because in our worlds, we see a lot of top-down approaches of star architects, of famous politicians, of designers to change cities. But for us, this top-down approach never felt the right way to answer the societal challenges we see. For us, the right way is Wetopia. And before I tell what this means for us, maybe I have to share why we need Wetopia. First of all, I think real change happens in cities on a local level, in specific contexts and places. And we see a need for more and better democracy in cities in which everyone is involved. So I always say we all are potential policy and change makers, whether we are politicians, citizens, civil servants, entrepreneurs, scientists, artists, activists, and so on. So for us, all roles matter in a city. And moreover, there's a lot, in a lot of cities, we see that we need new ways to fight segregation. We see a lot of segregation between places, between neighborhoods, but we also see a lot of segregation between people and communities. And also very important is that we realize that there is a lot of knowledge, experience, and creativity in our local society. And we just have to use this as much as possible. So what is Wetopia? Ellen, in her introduction, already told you it's the idea in which we acknowledge that we can only make a city together. So it's an intervention to stimulate collaboration between, on one hand, all kinds of policymakers, from politicians to big companies. On the other hand, civil society, from citizens to activists to communities. So we see it as a living lab. And I like to use this this visual, because at the left-hand side, you see the traditional view, and that's a view we see everywhere. So in a traditional view, only politicians are policymakers. And I always dare to say so, because I'm an ex-politician, and that's something, this view I want to fight against. Because when only politicians are policymakers, yeah, then you could say we elect them and they take care of us. So, okay, and then we wait till the next elections, and we as citizens, as artists, as city makers, as entrepreneurs, we expect a lot of these politicians, but at the end, they have to decide what should happen with and for us. On the contrary, in a Wetopian view, the umbrella becomes a ship in which we all navigate towards a better future, because we all, as change makers, are policymakers. So this is the idea of Wetopia. Now, how do we do this? Simply, for me, by bringing Wetopians together to inspire others and setting up customized projects and interventions in city. And I'm going to talk about what we did in Cape Town, like Ellen mentioned, but she also mentioned Marseille. And this is a picture we took in the project Le Tour de tous les possibles. It means the tour of all possibles, in collaboration with Manifesta. And what did we do? In several workshops, we brought together hundreds of people of Marseille from all kinds of backgrounds in new alliances. And new alliances for us are very important in Wetopia. For example, a new alliance between prisoners and business school students. We brought them together, and then the magic happens when you bring them in the same room and you let them co-create their city, the city they share, because they're all from Marseille. Or teachers and female entrepreneurs, or construction workers and the inhabitants of a rich neighborhood. So together we invented new solutions, new possibilities for the city. And at the end, it was also an open invitation to bring these possibles to life. So it's not only an exercise to find new solutions, but it's also co-developing these solutions and bring them into life with students, with entrepreneurs, with politicians, artists, and so on. So this is an example from Marseille. But let me say something about what we did in Cape Town, a great collaboration with Open Design Afrika last year. Then we were lucky to be all in the Castle of Good Hope, and we are very, very sorry that we're not at the V&A waterfront today. But yeah, let's hope next year it will be better. Let's hope it all together. But we did this in collaboration with ODA and with the Robert Bosch Foundation, a funder from Germany who really believed in this idea. And they helped us to set up this community of practice in Cape Town. And what did we do? On one hand, I must say we had 3 chapters. So community workshops, inspiration days, and seminars, master classes, and third, and last but not least, the learning program for policymakers. And the red line were concrete cases, projects, interventions by the people themselves. So it all started, and this picture says everything, I think. I love this picture. This was really like the vibe, isn't it, Sia? You were there. It all started from a 2-day community workshop in the Castle of Good Hope at Open Design Afrika with inhabitants of Langa Township in Cape Town and Kensington, a suburb in Cape Town. And we called this the G100. So the G100 worked around one question, and that was an emerging question following the inhabitants. Namely, how can we challenge perceptions of our communities? How can we change the narrative of our communities? Because a lot of social and entrepreneurial innovation happens in these neighborhoods, but it's not recognized enough as such. And out of these workshops came a lot of concepts, small and big ideas, interventions, and most of them were taken into their own hands. So the people, they thought, okay, great idea, we're just going to do something with it. But we also took some of these concepts as cases to the learning program for policymakers. What we also did as a second chapter, and this is a nice visual when we were all together last year, we organized at Open Design Afrika a Wetopia Inspiration Day. And we also organized masterclasses, seminars to bring these great examples of Wetopia to the public, a bit what we do today too, to learn how Wetopia is built on small and big scale, like by politicians, entrepreneurs, scientists, and so on. And we also involve these inspirators in our global work. We have Mundano today, but Mundano, he's with us all the time. So we are all over the globe, but we work a lot together. And then third chapter, last but not least, maybe even the most important part for me of the Wetopia Academy in Cape Town was the learning program for policymakers. And we invited, what did we do? We invited 15 people 5 community change makers, 5 people linked to local government. For example, we had someone from the mayor's office, someone from the economic development department, for example. And we had 5 city makers, entrepreneurial people for 6 full days exchange. Unfortunately, after 2 full days, we had to go online, but we kept on going. It was a huge challenge. As I remember, because being on Wi-Fi is not that evident for everybody, but we tried because we had someone from an occupation in Cape Town without electricity, without Wi-Fi, so it was quite a challenge to manage that, but we did. And the purpose of the program was to collaborate through a design process with the cases from these community workshops we did with Langa and Kensington, to step into the field and develop together with the inhabitants and city makers. And doing so, I hope so, but I'll leave the floor to you, Sia and Ellen, but we hoped that we created some Wetopians around concrete local communities and projects. And we also helped to work together from these different roles, because it's very inspiring to bring people from completely different backgrounds together in one room and developing the place-based potential of these 2 neighborhoods. And what we also did was developing community activations intervention starting from this workshop. And here you see Mundano at work in Kayalicha, but he will soon talk about what he did. But I want to go now to our 15 policymakers, because I like you, Sia and Ellen. So I hand over the mic to you again. I want you to reflect on this. Maybe I have to say, Sia is a young city maker living in Langa, with a great local network and a project that's called Langa Township Mountaineers, working with youngsters to become goal-oriented. And Ellen, of course, you met already as the MC today, but she's a great, great entrepreneur with a lot of experience in small business development and also monitoring technology startups and women in STEM initiatives. And like you see, they're both at the VNA. And I'm going to share 2 questions, and then I'm going to out of this presentation and give the floor to you. So one question I want to ask to you both is, what did Wetopia and the learning program do with you and for you? That's one question. And the other one is, how can Wetopia and Wetopians change our cities, our communities, and our projects? So that's what I want to ask you, Sia and
Want me to go first?
Ellen.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at this camera. So thank you for that, Yoka. So Sia has instructed me that I'm going to go first, which is no problem whatsoever. So the first question is, what did Wetopia do with me and for me? I was really very honored to be part of the project. I remember when we met last year at Open Design Afrika, and you presented this project, you spoke about it, and I thought, I have to be part of this. So I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a multifaceted entrepreneur that has very many interests and also runs different businesses. And that's not easy for people to understand, because people always want to define you and put you in a specific box. So they either see me as a STEMinist, or they either see me as a community worker, or they either want to see me as a disruptor. And when I heard about the concept, part of my thinking in my work, in my business that I make I earn a good living doing, is that I always try and bring people together. And working with Wetopia, working with the Wetopians under guidance from yourself, Yoka, under guidance from Kevin as well, it did 2 things. It brought structure and foundation to my sort of business philosophy. I knew that that is what I wanted because I didn't like to be boxed, and I also don't like working with one specific group of people. I think all the different clients I have and the projects I work on, they're all exciting, and they bring a lot of uniqueness to the work that I do and that I love doing because I learn every day. So the one thing that it brought was a structured and a theoretical basis. Someone in the previous session actually also said that what they learned from the Futures Project was to, just by the questions that were posed, to think about the solutions that they offered, their skills, to think about that differently, and to, if anything, reflect and question your thinking as well. So for me, that theoretical knowledge and was the first thing that it brought. It was sort of like, I'm on the right track because there's other people that also think this way. But more, we never would have thought this beforehand, but then we met together. It was amazing. I'm so happy you were in Cape Town. I remember leaving that day and just, walking on clouds. I was so inspired. I was so full of energy, and to physically experience, I talk a lot. That's why I'm emceeing. But to experience that, what it feels like for someone who is a waste picker to walk through the streets of Cape Town, to experience life the way they do, was a completely different, it was mind-blowing, it was mind-changing. And also to meet, city makers, politicians, activists, living without electricity, they could be seen as squatters, whatever, and to sit in a room and to see the world through their eyes. It has brought about incredible wealth. And then COVID happened and we were separated. And despite all of the craziness of then, we could all, once a month, we all got together and we got to share our worlds, our personal worlds and our business lives, and how our communities were being formed by this. What it has done for me, so I have met people for life, and these are people that after that I've since then called upon. And what it's influenced is in my business offering that I now know I can offer certain situations. I can link policymakers, people from a community. I can actually link them to potentially the corporates that I invest with, because I can say, you know what, I'm not the specialist. What you need to do is work with the community person. What you actually need to do is understand why people are occupying a building and what that looks. So for me, I've met wonderful people, but I've learned a lot, and it's increased economic sustainability for the business. So it makes business sense. It's not only, a nice to have, it makes business sense. I will stop or I won't stop talking. See ya.
Yeah. Hi, Yoka.
Hi.
Thank you so much, first of all, thanks to Sune, thanks to Open Design, the whole team behind it, even the ones that we haven't met yet, and also the production team that has worked so hard, and also Ellen, Buyelwa, and all the MCs that they've put in an effort in terms of making this presentation, this virtual presentation, to be a reality. And yeah, and I learned a lot, so much yesterday, from session 1 to session 4. Without Open Design, without Wetopia, I will not have been sitting here with you today. And that is just my gratitude before I start with the answer. So what has Wetopia done to me? Wetopia was like a farmer. A farmer, when they look at a seed, they put a seed on the palm of their hand. They don't see a seed. If they were to ask you, Ellen, what is this? What will your answer be? You don't have to answer this. Maybe your answer will be a synonym of what a seed is.
Of what you see.
Yeah, of what a seed is. But a farmer sees a forest. A farmer sees animals. A farmer sees a river, stream. A farmer sees birds, sees ants, sees within this seed, So for me, Wetopia has done that to me, it created that self-belief, and also the belief in the dreams that I have for Langa Township Mountaineers, and also for my society as well. And that has brought up an action within me during this COVID-19. We formed a Joslovo Ken, where we fed a informal settlement called Joslovo. During this COVID-19, we tried so much to find funding, because I could also see seeds within the young people that they're not going to school, their parents are looking out for jobs, and they're left alone at home. So it created a sense of action within me, because I remember when we took a walk from Gugastebe to Jordan's Cookaways, and we were asked that we should ride the wheelchair, so that we can empathize with Sizwe and I forgot the name of the other gentleman. And we were faced with challenges, in terms of not being used to using a wheelchair, and we actually understood their real problems that they face in an everyday life. Like you said, Langa on its own has its own differences, has its own inequalities, even though it's a township that is different from any of the suburbs of the rest of the Western Cape, but it is also different. So I could actually empathize with him, even though I've lived in Langa for so many years, without realizing the difficulties that people in wheelchairs are facing on a daily life. And within that 250 meters, I think, of a ride with a wheelchair, I could actually empathize with Sizwe, and I went home with that thinking. And during the COVID, that is exactly the same feeling that I had for the community, in terms of trying to find funding for the soup kitchen that we've developed. And a lot of young people came up and they built a shack from scratch, they painted it, and we called upon mothers to come and cook. If you can look on our Facebook page as well, there's a lot of that going on. So that is what the Wetopia experience has done to me and for me.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I want to give the floor to Mundano, because he has an exciting story. And as you know, time is always too short. But can you give one takeaway for the people who are looking now? What can Wetopia and Wetopians, or how can they change our cities and our communities? How do you both see that?
So, Yoka, I see, if I could, we've got a whole world that's watching us right now. The concept of Wetopia and working with Wetopia in whatever environment you are, whether it's in a township or if you're in a corporate environment or in a business environment, is that you cannot believe the incredible innovation that is spurred. And I love that Sia said it called me to action. We can brainstorm forever, we can theorize, we can be sad, we can diarize, or we can learn from other people and become better that way, and therefore be inspired to action. The most important bit, I would say, is speak to Wetopia to find out how you can move to the next step of being a change maker, and that is actually implementing change or actioning change. Sia?
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. That was powerful. Yeah, Ellen is really speaking to what is in my heart in terms of this question, because it really speaks to action, to action. Because most of the time, like you have expressed, that politicians they speak from as if they're standing on top of a tree, and then you're at the bottom, instead of trying and coming to understand your situations and difficulties. So using the Wetopian experience or Wetopia, the ultimate goal here is to actually be with the people, feel what they feel, so that you listen to them, because you know, if you don't listen to people, then you'll never know, and if you don't know, you'll never be able to implement what you really think is right for the people, unless you hear what is right for them.
Okay, thank you, Ellen and Sia. I'm so, my heart gets warm when I hear you speaking, and really, really thankful and grateful to have you as one of our Wetopians. But I invited two more great Wetopians, not from Cape Town, but from Kenya and Brazil. And so I think it's time to give the floor to Mundano and Amolo, who are in fact two completely different, from completely different cities, completely different roles, because the one is an activist artist, the other is a scientist, but they both are real change makers, not waiting for politicians to move, but taking real societal challenges into their hands and creating a massive impact. The topic of this virtual festival is Small is Massive, and I think there are great examples of this. And I'm going to introduce Mundano first. So he's one of our first Wetopians. We met each other already a few years ago. I remember Mundano in Dresden, and afterwards in Ghent, and then again in Cape Town. So we traveled the world a little bit together already. Mundano is an activist and has worldwide recognition for his political inflamed graffiti on walls, but also, moreover, on the cards of waste pickers, making them visible superheroes for the environment. And with his app Kataki, Mundano is also a real change maker, improving the life for the waste pickers. And like I said, Small is Massive, the topic of this Global Inspiration Day, could never be more visible than in the work of Mundano. Mundano, the floor is yours. I'm very happy to have you.
And thank you, Yuki, for the nice introduction. I'm so happy to be in this small room with this beautiful view here of the waterfront. I feel in Cape Town. Small is massive. What we are doing is today also give more energy to us that we are facing challenges and giving solutions. So I'm so happy to be here, even online. So Wetopia, I really believe in this concept, in these people that you put together, in this learning program. I think this is what our world needs, especially right now. So as Cia said, like we got inspired each session. So that is what it's about. And I really believe in the concept of small is massive. So I will share my screen here. So I could, let's see here. So I could share a little bit of a story, what I'm doing, and later on a video. So I think you are seeing now. So this is a picture. You can see me, a small people here, really small, in this massive and the worst social and environmental disaster in Brazil. This is what I'm walking in, is a toxic mud from a mining disaster that killed hundreds of people, 12 million tons of waste, toxic waste mud. And as an activist, I went there to see and feel it and try to do a small thing to the memory of these victims. So what I did is that I create a paint out of the mud, using the mud to create paint. And I did this 800-meter mural in the middle of the city, 12 floors, put in the face of those victims, only use the toxic mud. So we can take waste to create memory. And that mural impacted millions of people in Brazil, connected. So this is the power of art. A small thing to a massive impact. But let's continue. So I am a graffiti artist, street artist, activist, or an artivist. So this is a mural about the indigenous people. So I kept doing works, raising masses, like this one. You can see me in the middle. This is in Baltimore, like trying to amplify voices. That I think is what I do with my work. I am from São Paulo, this gray city. This is a color picture, just to have an idea how ugly my city are. But you can see this bridge. Under the bridge, you see the inequality. So these are the people. We have a big social inequality in Brazil, especially in São Paulo. And I took my work on the streets 15 years ago, and I start to see that there is this inequality. You can see here next to our video, there is a woman inside of the trash bin collecting the waste of all these people happy about soccer and blah, blah, blah. So these are waste pickers. You see this cart and this guy with the red shirt. They are invisible to the city, but they collect 19% of everything that's actually recycled in Brazil. But for me, they were doing the sustainability. They're doing mitigating climate change, but nobody recognized that. So 13 years ago, you see that I was really younger here. I started painting carts, the carroças, the carts of they collect the recyclable materials to make an honest living. So something like this, painting. So this I was saying, my car doesn't pollute. I have an honest job. So I launched into this universe and I painted hundreds of cars all over Brazil, raising masses, like improving their self-esteem, giving colors and amplify those voices. So just to show some pictures, this is recycling ideas, realizing dreams in the northeast of Brazil. This is in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Santiago de Chile, Cochabamba, Bolivia, Istanbul, Turkey, Hong Kong, China, New York, USA, Hawaii, Lima, Peru, Quito, Ecuador, Arusha, Tanzania, Soweto, South Africa, so another Soweto. So this is also Cape Town. But then I realized that I was doing important work, but it was small. But let's collaborate. So I was 5 years doing this alone, and nobody was doing nothing alone. And this post for me is important because these messages on the card says, one waste picker does more for the environment than the environmental minister. And this went viral, like 200,000 shares. So in that day, people said, yeah, I really believe waste pickers are superheroes changing our cities. And then I feel the power of the crowd, and look how they collect the size and the volume of these materials. So how we can help these superheroes, because on social media it got viral, but we need to put our hands up. So then in 2012, I created Keep My Carroça. So it was 50 artists, hundreds of volunteers rebuilding the cars, painting those cars. And after that, it went to schools, doing programs. And this is just a map of some actions that we did in the last years. Over 60 cities, thousands of waste pickers that we build and paint in their cars, volunteers and artists. We create an NGO with several programs. I don't have time to show it, but special, the one that Yoke mentioned is Kataki. It's an app. You can think it's like an Uber of the waste picker. But forget about Uber model, because Uber model exploits the drivers. There is tax and everything. We don't believe in that model. We create an app that you find the closest waste picker to your house to recycle, but without taxes. All the money is a non-profit app. So until today, we have over 200,000 downloads in Brazil, over 3,000 waste collector cooperatives and recycling centers connected in over 480 cities. In Brazil, you can find the closest waste picker to your house. So here you see.
Did we lose connection? I think Mundano froze. Yoke, are you still there?
Yes, I'm there.
Ah, okay. So maybe while he is trying to get back online, I think his screen just froze. Maybe we should continue.
Shall we go to Amolo and come back to
and then come back
Manolo?
to
Okay, good. So then I'll introduce you, Amolo. I have to say Dr. Amolo Ambole. She's a design researcher at Living Lab Nairobi and lectures also at the University of Nairobi. And she's very active in co-designing sustainable futures with communities in Africa. And together we will soon, and I'm very, very excited for that, set up a Wetopia workshop in Matare slum about accessible energy solutions with inhabitants, politicians, scientists, and city makers. And I'm very, very, very happy to have Amolo among us today. So, okay, Amolo, the floor is yours to share your work.
welcome.
Thank you very much, Yoke, for that generous introduction. Since Mundano was presenting very passionately and he had such lovely images, I'll consider my talk to just be an interlude before we come back to his very lovely talk. So let me start by giving a background to the urbanization challenge in Africa that necessitates this Wetopian discussion. By the year 2050, African cities will more than double their current population sizes. For us in Nairobi, this means that our current population of about 5 million people will increase to 10 million people in just 30 years. If you imagine this situation in a city like Lagos, Nigeria, that has 20 million people, then the consequences are just mind-boggling. In terms of population size, Lagos is the largest Black city on earth. And this is because every single hour, 77 people come to Lagos in search of a better life. Now, these new urbanites have basic requirements of food, shelter, good education, proper medical care, along with other social amenities. They're also looking for jobs and livelihood opportunities. And just like the rest of us, they have a right to the city. Unfortunately, African cities like Nairobi, as they are right now, are not designed or planned for this huge influx of new residents. The sad result is that most new residents in African cities end up in informal settlements or what we call slums. These slums have inadequate access to the physical, social, and economic infrastructure that residents need to live a decent quality of life. So the big question we ask ourselves, and that keeps me up at night as a design researcher, is how might we design for these burgeoning urban populations over the next 30 years while using limited resources? Well, I personally don't have an answer to that question. But if we put our minds and hearts together, then we can provide the multi-perspective approaches that we need to tackle this complex challenge. And this is the collaborative approach to making cities better in the Wetopian way. I'll therefore give two examples of our research in Africa that illustrates this Wetopian spirit that we've been using even before we joined Wetopia, but now we believe we are definitely in the right place in this conversation. Over the past 3 years, I've been fortunate to collaborate in 2 regional projects known as CODEC and GENS. CODEC stands for Co-Designing Energy Communities, and it's a 2-year project that we completed in 2019, supported by the ODA2020 program. That program was funded by SIDA, and the aim was to facilitate collaborative research across African cities. So for us in CODEC, we were collaborating as the University of Nairobi, where I'm based, Stellenbosch University in South Africa, and Makerere University in Uganda. As an interdisciplinary team of researchers, We were interested in providing solutions to the energy challenge in African cities. We therefore used a place-based approach of working in informal settlement case studies in our own cities. So here in Kenya, we were working in Mathare Informal Settlement that is not too far from the University of Nairobi. In Uganda, we worked in Kasubikawala Settlement, and that too is a walking distance from Makerere University. And then in South Africa, they worked in Nkanini Informal Settlement, which is the only informal settlement in Stellenbosch town and is also very close to the university community. So over the 2 years that we worked with this informal settlement case studies, we wanted to co-opt community members as co-researchers into our study so that we understand the problem from their perspective. We also collaborated with policy actors and experts to provide that multi-perspective approach that is necessary if you want to realize relevant solutions. In essence, therefore, we were taking everybody out of their silos and compartmentalized thinking so that we can consider the problem from different angles. So as you can imagine, community members in Mathare have short-term and immediate goals because they need to provide their daily needs. Policy actors, on the other hand, are using a more top-down approach because they have long-term goals. And in the case of energy, they are working with 5 to 10-year policy cycles. And then you have experts who are very knowledgeable about their field, but they may tend to be elitist. So you might find an energy expert who has no clue what a resident in Mathare household needs in terms of energy. And then, of course, you have the activists like Mundano who are very passionate, but they can also be confrontational. But all these ways of knowing are very legitimate. Lastly, you have researchers like myself, and we are often blamed for being in our ivory towers and we pontificate over the rest of the world because we believe we are the ones who are the custodians of knowledge. University of Nairobi actually has an ivory tower. Well, we have a 22-story structure that's sort of bluish in color, so I always like to call it our ivory tower, but it's actually known as the University of Nairobi Tower. So we wanted to come out of these towers and work with the people who understand the problem, both from the inside and the outside. From that CODE project, we were granted a new award under the GENS Trilateral Chair, and GENS stands for Gendered Energy Innovations. So with GENS, we want to institute the co-design processes that we started off in CODEC, and we are collaborating as University of Nairobi and Stellenbosch University. This time, we have a new collaborator, that's Brunel University, London. So our collaboration currently is supported by the British Council and by the National Research Fund of South Africa. And the aim is for us to work over a period of 3 to 5 years to provide a multi-perspective approach to the gendered energy innovation challenge that we are looking at. In Nairobi, we are going to continue working in Mathare, and in Cape Town, we are working in a settlement known as Quintens. So the best thing we are going to be doing in GENS right now is that we are going to set up living labs. So these GENS living labs are going to be in Mathare and in Grunewald, and our aim is to continue providing a space for multiple stakeholders to work together. We're of course going to be collecting a lot of data, prototyping solutions, conducting workshops, and of course influencing policy advancements. So I'd like to say that as researchers, we are now seeing ourselves as facilitators. We are not just the custodians of knowledge. So we'd like to move away from the notion that we are the only ones who can provide solutions. And believe it or not, University of Nairobi has a line in its anthem that says, "We are the fountain of knowledge, we create and hold the vision." But in the Wetopian way, we all create and hold this vision. So we want to continue providing creative methods and tools. And in this regard, we are going to host our Wetopian event on the 24th of November. So we're going to have this event in Mathare settlement, and we're going to use a generative design approach where we bring together the policy advisors and regulators we've been working with in the energy sector. They're going to work alongside companies that are already providing product solutions for informal settlements. Of course, we'll have researchers, activists, and the most important people during that workshop are going to be the Mathare residents themselves, who have the tacit knowledge of the problem. Of course, as researchers, we are very concerned about providing an evidence-based approach to decision-making. So as we collect and analyze data, we will continue writing our academic papers, but no one in Mathare or even in policy is going to read our papers. So we want to make sure that the knowledge we are producing is relevant, and we present it in a way that it is palatable to different audiences. And then thirdly, we want to continue synthesizing diverse knowledge types. So there's that tacit knowledge that comes from the people who live with a challenge on a daily basis. We have academic knowledge, expert knowledge, the people who understand how policy works. And as we've already been told about Wetopia, we want to bring these different people to synthesize that knowledge and provide solutions. So as we continue our work in GEMS, we're going to share our learnings across Africa so that we can make our cities better together. And with that, I'd like to finish with our motto, Wetopians, arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Amolo. So maybe, thank you so much. So now you know why she's also one of our Wetopians, no? Maybe we can go back to Mundano and his passionate story.
Yes, sorry that I lost my connection here in Brazil. And congrats, Amolo, from your beautiful work with the solutions. So I'm trying to reach back again where I were, and I'm sharing the screen again. So I think I was sharing that the last time I was online is that the application that started small and now is massive increased the earnings of the way speakers in almost 65% naturally on the average. And also we are creating a solution that is an electric cart, and it's pretty much done so we can, for them to have better tool and conditions to this challenge. But also our challenge is the plastic, the pollution. You see, this is a São Paulo river looks like. This is a kid collecting aluminum cans to survive and help their families. So these are our biggest challenge. This is one of our Amazon rivers looks like right now, in the heart of the Amazon. And this also, this is what we are doing with our environment, to ourselves. And it's not different than South Africa. This is a South Africa picture. So we have the same similarities. Also, this is also in South Africa. Water crisis that you faced there, we also faced it in São Paulo, in Brazil. So this I was doing interventions on the Cracked Lake bed in São Paulo that gives water to 9 million people. But then we have a bigger thing. We have the pandemic, the COVID-19. So this put our challenge of the plastic far away, and we need to face this. And with that in mind, as the way speakers don't have, sometimes their home office are the streets, so they don't have enough way to survive, we create this project, Minimum Income for Way Speakers. So I'll play the video. Half of the video is credit, so I will go only on the video. Let's see if you hear me, the video.
Must I tell them? Yoke, I don't know, or Mundano, if you can hear, but we cannot hear the sound. We're reading the subtitles.
Don't listen to the sound.
No sound. That's clever.
Urban rendition left for me. Sea of trouble that I wait every day. Deep in the city, 12 revolutions of the moon. It's been a year, it's been too long since I've seen your face and heard your song. Urban rendition left for me. Song of fire fills the air. We don't care. Deep in the city, persevere, urban child, in your struggle. There lies hope for the ones you left behind. Let the prayers carry you, although afraid, be resolute. They're all looking up to you, but tembele nawe. Take your place in the sun. You're the hope, you're the one. You can always come home. Here is where you belong, where the city meets the night. I've heard so much, I've seen so much. I've seen people fight to stay alive. I think of you to hustle on. Think of you 'cause I know I don't belong here in the city.
Yeah, just to have an idea, the end of the video is just pure credits. Like 5 minutes of people that donated. So just, it's a good example that small is massive. Let me stop here. So this was a big effort, a collective effort, that makes us reflect that we are part of the solution. Even with a small donation, we can do our impact, like collaboration. And this is something that I learned during the pandemic. Just to finish my presentation, that me as an activist and we are human beings, we are not defending nature, we are nature defending itself. So this is a concept that I also would like to spread. And of course, small is massive, Wetopia. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mundano and Amolo, to share your stories with us. We lost a little bit of the sound, but we will definitely share the video on our socials, and also Open Design will definitely do that, so we can look into it again. I'm not sure, Ellen, if there are some questions from the public, or do we hand over to Kevin to do some closing remarks?
I'm just checking. We can, okay, so no, you're going to have to hand over to Kevin. We're going to have to come back to the people that have posted questions. There's been so many wonderful stories. So if you can hand over to Kevin, please, Yoka. Thank you, Amolo and Mondano.
Okay, Kevin,
right.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen quickly. Just give me 1 second. I find. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Kevin, you've got us all holding our breath, waiting to see that beautiful presentation.
Sorry, man. I'm trying to share it, and I think, is it sharing now?
You've got it. Yeah, it's loading. There we go. We've got it.
Okay, sorry. It's because
so you have 5 minutes, Kevin.
All right. So I'm going to summarize. We are, Wetopia, working towards 100 cities. Our idea is within the next couple of years, if we can reach 100 cities, which we share this Wetopian philosophy globally. And as you've seen with a lot of our partners, this idea is a global idea that is in art. It's within all of us. The model is very simple. It puts the citizen first, and it's a non-governmental, non-politician approach. We are all under this one big within this one big umbrella, which is the boat, right? So we're not on an umbrella, which is a politician or a government kind of driving us. We are all driving this boat together. In Cape Town, as you saw, we engaged with the community, and we were able to together bring policymakers to work together towards us. And these policymakers are diverse. You've seen from politicians to, as Amolo said, academicians. In this case here, this is a slide where we had a university, Fontes. I myself am a researcher with two universities. And the idea is that we are all coming together with our different hats, be it Ellen, who's a social entrepreneur, or an ex-politician like Yuka. We are all coming together to create this movement. I'll call it a movement, which then spreads across to these 100 cities. And in our case, we started somewhere. We started in Cape Town, which was our first real impact. And we mapped ourselves there, as you can see in this picture. We decided, where is this place we're starting and what is it? We are in several cities now, as you've heard. Yuka, who's in Marseille, myself in Port Elizabeth, Amolo, who's in Nairobi, which is where we're extending ourselves to. But the idea is spreading the word and trying to engage more people to actually understand the work we're doing and see where they fit in. Once again, and in the theme of this presentation, with what Open Design Afrika is doing, small is massive. It can start with 5 people, it can be 10 people, it can be 20 people. In the case of Cape Town, we were fortunate that we started with a larger community, and we narrowed down through a workshop series to about 15 policymakers. We have been fortunate because of our activities that we were actually selected to the Futures Project. Just remember, this Futures Project was about 600 entries, and out of the 600 entries, we are one of We're about 60, 63, and we are in the semi-final leg of it. So watch out, look out for the space. If you want to join us and if you want to participate with us, please feel free. I mean, we're very easy to find. We are Wetopia Making Cities Together in any platform. On the left there at the bottom, you can see the website. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on any of these platforms. And the idea is basically engaging with us. Ellen, I don't know if I've met my 5 minutes summary, but this is who we are. This is what we are trying to do.
Thank you. You've done exceptionally well. Thank you so much to everyone. I really, Kevin, great to see you. Regards back to everyone back in PE. Yoka, thank you so much. And to Amola and Mundano, to Sia, thank you very much for joining us. You've brought us energy. So we have to unfortunately finish off now because there's virtual coffee sessions planned with some of our speakers and they need time to get to that. Thank you all for joining us. We invite you to stick around. There's a local entertainment. If you've signed up for a virtual coffee session with one of these amazing Wetopians, please make sure that you make your way to the speaker's virtual room, which will start at 2:45. And a reminder to please use the Zoom link that was provided to you when you booked for your virtual coffee sessions. So just as Wetopia, you can find Open Design Afrika also on the different social media challenges. Our hashtag is ODA2020, hashtag Open Design Afrika, hashtag small is massive. We will be back at 3:20 to introduce Richard Xu from Shanghai, who will be moderating the fourth and final session of today. Now, let's welcome back Cape Town musicians, Mino Melodies. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, guys. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
We can